Hey guys, this is Mountain Walk, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about fucking banned and restricted announcements. I recorded this goddamn thing last night because I was so clever and smug. I was like, look, there's no way this piece of shit isn't getting banned, right? So I'm like, alright, sweet, good stuff. I make my coffee and get up, check the list announcements, and there's massive, massive shakeups basically in every format. So let's. This is pretty sweet. This is pretty sweet. So let's start at the beginning. We'll start from the top. So changes to standard, modern, and vintage. First and foremost, uh, my boy Rampaging Ferocodon is unbanned in standard. I don't think they've ever unbanned a card in standard. Like, what the fuck is even going on? Like, it seems like they're definitely taking a more hands-on approach, um, and using the banned and restricted list to craft environments, and it seems like they've kind of been doing that a lot more recently. Maybe with the whole new play design thing or whatever. So yeah, my boy Rampaging Ferocodon, he's back, and he's ready to make you die if you put a bunch of zombies into play. A bunch of nasty zombies, you're gonna go to hell, and you're gonna get eaten by a dinosaur. So that's sweet. Um, I guess you could play it in historic now too, because I think historic is like, does that have the ban list of the cards that are banned in standard? Is that how historic works on Arena? Not 100% sure. Whatever. My boy Rampaging Ferocodon's back is great. It's definitely a pretty good foil to the Scape Shift Fuel of the Dead decks. Pretty good. Gives a little bit more room for mono red to do its thing. That's sweet. Only legal for like 2 more months or something, I think, until Throne of Eldraine comes out. I think like in October-ish or something. So whatever, it's fucking cool. That is sweet. I mean, this is very very strange. I can't think of a time when they unbanned something in standard before. I mean, maybe back in the day, but even then, I don't remember anything like that. Um, because even like back in the early days of standard they had weird banned and restricted lists, and stuff was restricted and banned in standard, and it was all wonky. All that shit was wonky, but I don't remember anything like that, and certainly nothing within sort of the modern era, like everything from say like invasion up. We don't really have, there's never been any unbannings in standard. Totally weird. Interesting. I'm not exactly sure what this means, but like I said, it does seem to imply that they are taking a more hands-on approach using the banned restricted list to craft metagames to make them better, which will play into something we'll talk about at the end, which is very very exciting for me. Like I'm fully erect. It's amazing. But okay, let's move on. Let's move on to the big one. All right. Okay, we got in modern, we got Hogaak is banned. Fuck off, right? Um, Pretty obvious. Faithless looting is banned. Slightly unexpected, but no one's really surprised. I think everyone knows that looting was eventually going to be on borrowed time. There'd always be like just more and more and more cards that come out, more stuff that'll synergize with it to break it or whatever. And of course, Stoneforge Mystic is unbanned. This is amazing. This is great. I mean, I don't think it's going to. Well, maybe it'll make a big splash. I hope it does. I hope it does. But I mean, this is a pretty innocuous card. It's a good card. It's a good cornerstone of a good fair strategy. And there's like a million answers to this. Like push, bolt, uh, path. Obviously, I mean, any creature removal, discard spells. Obviously, work against the Batterskull itself. Kolagon's command, abrupt decay, and on and on and on and on. A braid works on either half. Um, yeah, so there's nothing like this. It's a powerful card. It's a good card, but it doesn't even fit nicely because a lot of the Death and Taxes style decks in modern, they use Leonin Arbiter, and obviously Leonin Arbiter is a non-bow with with Stoneforge Mystic, obviously. So yeah, that's so it's interesting. It's a good card. Obviously, doesn't fit into humans at all because A, it's a core, and B, it requires you to carve out more slots for like equipment, which just I mean those slots just aren't there. Um, so it's interesting. It does change the way you make decks, but it's a powerful card. Now you can play your Cobblade. You can play your fucking Cobblade deck, minus like Ponder or Preordain or whatever. But yeah, you can play Cobblade, which is cool. I don't know if you play any Cause, any flying hawk guy things, but yeah, Stoneforge is a big get, big get. It's a really powerful card, but it's certainly not oppressive in any respect. I mean, this card doesn't even like people are like, oh man, this card's so good against burn. Like this piece of shit eats a fucking Searing Blaze, and like then you hardcast your Batterskull on turn 5 and it needs to smash the Smithereens. Like, come on, like this isn't. It's good if it lives, like both of the cards live and you get to attack with it against burn, but I mean, yeah, good luck with that. Like the deck assumes a control role, boards in more searing effects, Grim Lavamancers, so on. Like it's not happening. So even where you think it would be really great, it's I mean whatever. So yeah, but it is pretty cool with the new Mother runes, Giver runes. So you can have a sequence of turn one Giver runes, turn two Stoneforge, turn three like get your Batterskull into play or put your sword into play or whatever, that kind of thing. There's all I mean I don't even know what swords you play. I mean they're all pretty good, right? Well the Feast and Famine, Fire and Ice, obviously are the two big ones. Obviously, getting protection from a lot of the other ones, like the red white one. That one has a sudden impact effect where it like they take damage equal to number of cards in their hand, that kind of thing. All sorts of stuff, all sorts of stuff. So lots of different options there. So lots of different deck building options. So that's cool. So this is pretty big. So you can play. Excuse me again. Sorry, all this coffee is making me burp. So you can have your Stoneforge decks with they could be like the Death and Taxes variety, or they can be like say the Cobblade, Stoneblade stuff. Probably just Stoneblade. I mean, maybe you play the Squadron Hawks or whatever. Um, but yeah, I mean, Stoneforge Mystic obviously works very well with Jace because you can put a Batterskull down, and then you can jam your Jace down. Like, wow, this is great, so much value, which is true. But it's a little, I mean, little, a little middling. But it's good. It's good. It's good combo, good deck, lots of good stuff to do. So that's sweet. So modern looks decidedly more fair, especially without Faithless looting, which is, um, well, let's talk a little bit about Faithless looting. Let's talk a bit about Faithless looting. So, um, modern is a format that's a non-rotating format that basically replaced extended, right? And so extended classically was about 8 years or so. Typically, for most of its run, is about 8 years worth of sets. Modern started about in 2003, if I should say modern starts like the first sets that are allowed 2003. So you got 8th edition and the original Mirrodin block, all the way up to present day 2019. That's 16 years. This is literally twice as long than extended ever was. And so you're going to have the problem of these linear decks or unfair decks or synergy based decks just going to be getting way more powerful than your fair decks just because you can only print fair cards that are so good, right? Like I mean, you know, um are you going to be able to print a better Path to Exile in the standard set? Not likely, you know. You're not going to be able to probably print any sort of better lane destruction than like stuff like Ghost Quarter and some of the other options that are available in the format. So like there's a hard cap on how good these cards are. But for other decks, like a lot of the synergy based decks, They just need one card to make them go nuclear. That's going to be a big problem, and it's going to be a bigger problem going into the next few years into the future, even with like modern design philosophy and everything else. Like there's still piles of broken decks and stupid bullshit going on. So that's going to be an issue. And so they're going to need to really start hammering some of these more broken cards, like Faithless Looting, which I think everyone knew was on borrowed time. And then obviously the other two that are in the crosshairs would be like Mox Opal or Ancient Stirrings. Um, so I mean I don't know when. I mean they seem okay at the moment. They'll probably be fine. These decks aren't super duper fast. Um, but yeah, we'll see what happens. So I think I wouldn't be surprised to see again, like I said, the Faithless Looting or excuse me, Ancient Stirrings and Mox Opal go at some point in time. Just the next few years, they keep printing more and more. Like they seem to have no problem printing like broken, ridiculous, colorless artifact cards or lands or whatever to fit into those decks. Or obviously all the graveyard stuff that's super duper broken or you know uh, I don't understand. Of course, the weird excuse of Stoneforge restricts design space. Like design space on what? Like we haven't had like a playable equipment since Batterskull. I mean, and it's only playable in decks with Stoneforge. And like pretty much I think has the only equipment that's ever seen play that's not like been in the Stoneforge deck been it's either been like Skullclamp and Umezawa's Jite, both of which are mistakes, right? So I mean, you really don't see a lot of these equipment really being played without Stoneforge, anyways. So it's just strange. Like it restricts design space, but wouldn't they print like good equipment at some point then? I mean, oh, I guess of course there's cranial plating, but that was also probably well, I guess maybe for a while it was maybe considered a mistake, but obviously it's a little mundane at this point. But yeah, kind of weird. Some cards restrict design space and others don't. Anyways, I don't want to get off too much off topic. Next I'll start ranting about Counterspell and how much I fucking hate Logic Knot. What a piece of shit that is. God forbid you should be able to play a good Counterspell, right? God, don't wanna restrict design space. No, it's good that you have to play shitty cards like fucking Logic Knot. Yeah, you should have to play it because that's like skill testing or whatever. Like, yeah, okay. It's like saying, sorry, we need to ban Leyline of the Void, because you should be playing like Ravenous Trap or like Withered Wretch or some fucking stupid shit. Like, doesn't make any sense. Anyways, I don't want to be too negative. This is obviously a very very good news. So slows the format down. Hopefully, we can get back to some sort of semblance of like modern being not super duper fast BS all the time. So that's great. That's awesome. Stoneforge is back. That's sweet. We'll see some hopefully mid-range decks, and even if it's not that great, people that want to play with Stoneforge can now play with Stoneforge. Fucking awesome, right? And the best one, in my opinion, because this is a format that I like quite a bit, in Vintage, we got Karn is restricted. Karn the Great Creator. Mystic Forge is restricted. Golgari Grave Troll is restricted. Mental Misstep is restricted. I mean, this is great news. I mean, obviously, like Misstep has just been obviously just a cancerous card. I've wanted this thing to go the last couple of years. It's just been too. I mean, it's just yeah, it's more interaction. And if you go through the article on Wizard's site, they talk about the drawbacks of misstep being you need to have missteps to counter your opponent's missteps and um, being able to counter like your opponent's ancestrals is obviously big gain. But they're basically useless against like the shop decks. Obviously, since like almost none of their cards cost one, so it's basically worthless. So, and that was a big problem. Also, I think one of the other reasons why the shops decks have been so powerful recently was because like the blue decks will just have these garbage hands full of like missteps or whatever, and they don't do anything. So I'm glad those are all gone. Karn, obviously, like this card is stupid. Like it's powerful enough for the shop decks. Like, well, we can't cast them, but if we go fucking Grim Monolith Voltaic Key, there we go. And in case you haven't heard, in Vintage there's this little combo called Time Vault and Voltaic Key, and so getting your Karn, you can tutor for your you can wish for your Time Vault from your sideboard, basically negating the whole thing about it being restricted, and then combo off with your Voltaic Key. I mean, it's just yeah, this card's so powerful, and because in Vintage you have so much of people's mana bases is made of Moxen and Artifact Mana Acceleration. Like Karn coming down on turn 1 or 2 will just shut them off. They won't even be able to play the game. You don't even need a fucking Mycosynth Flatus because they can't do anything. So that was definitely basically like too powerful. Obviously too powerful, and that caused all sorts of problems. Um, yeah, Karn. I love Karn. I think Karn's one of my favorite characters. I like all of his Planeswalker cards. They're all sweet. Um, yeah, so I mean, shit. Definitely a worthy restriction. Obviously, Mystic Forge is busted in a deck with shitloads of mana acceleration, free mana, like Moxen, Lotus, Soul Ring, all this other stuff. Cheap artifacts, Ravager and shit. Like, yeah, Mystic Forge is pretty nuts. Pretty nuts. Um, yeah, I mean, there's not really much to say about that. And of course, Grave Troll was restricted along with Misstep 2 to nerf the Dredge decks a little bit. I mean, these decks have just been getting all sorts of extra cards, basically Force of Vigor, and that uses Misstep as well. So yeah, being able to nerf those decks a little bit is certainly a good thing. I mean, basically, since Dredge has been Dredge in Vintage, which is, I don't know, 10 years or so at least. Um, it's basically you've had to pack like 8 plus uh, graveyard hate cards in your grave or in your sideboard to have any chance. Like you pretty much like I don't know, got to be like 100% win rate or something for this deck, or at least probably pretty close. Like game one is probably like 80 something percent or whatever, something absurd, and then you just have to pack a million cards in your sideboard to beat it. Um, but they're like, well, maybe that's too much, especially with the new London Mulligan. It's a lot easier to always have your Bazaar, although I think it wasn't like, I think it was already like 90 something percent anyways. So, oh man, just crazy stuff. Crazy shit. This is great. I mean, yeah, Misstep is shitty. And a lot of the worst thing that Misstep did, again, this we saw this happen in Legacy too when Misstep was around for what, a couple months, 3 months, 6 months, or whatever. Um, I mean, what it really did, it didn't really kill any deck or any deck that people thought it would kill. It just ended up making the Dark Ritual Storm decks way worse. Basically unplayable, at least in a Legacy, and then obviously much worse in Vintage. So that was big shit, big shitty McShit. But now, obviously, only one misstep. It's great. I guess your ancestral recalls will resolve a lot more often too, which is pretty nice. Um, and and speaking of making decks better, did I forget to mention they unrestricted fast bond right when they restricted misstep, which seems a little strange, but yeah, fast bond is awesome. I mean, the most fun I had was with fast bond in the Growatog decks in Vintage, where you gush bond, obviously. So gush plus fast bond, it produces mana, draws cards, pretty obscene, and then Yawgmoth's Will, and then you have all this mana, and oh boy, oh god, that was just nutty. That was so insane. Oh man, merchant scrolling, and then oh god, that's just awesome. I love it. I had so much fun with that deck. Um, yeah, so now you can play 4 Fast Bond. 4 fucking Fast Bond? I mean, I, I don't even know. I mean, I guess there's like you can play it in lands, like a land. I mean, there's like as far as I know, there's like a lands variant in Vintage. Fast Bond is pretty good in a lands deck. It's like exploration, but it's like 10 explorations for the same price as one. I mean, I don't. How do you even describe some of these old cards from like Alpha and Beta? Like, it just. I mean, these cards are just. It's hard to. Hyperbole doesn't even cut it. It's hard to say how. I mean, a channel? I mean, how? It's like words fail me. I don't think I can adequately describe it. But hey, you know what? You know what's good with Fast Bond? Fucking Crucible or Loam, and then also Strip Mine. Strip Mine's pretty good too. I mean, Jesus. I wonder if they'll end up playing like one Zurin Orb. I guess you can gain infinite life. That might be kind of cool. A little cute, but I mean that's insane. But also I wanted to mention that they were talking about, oh, we still got another, band restricted thing before Eternal Weekend. So, tell us what you want to think about. We're looking at unrestricting cards that were, to make new decks and stuff, to create new play styles. And they mentioned, they're like, well, we're looking at like Windfall or also maybe Necropotence. So, I mean, that was probably one of the last cards I'd ever imagined them being like, oh yeah, we'll just unrestrict Necropotence, like whatever. That just seems so crazy to me. Like that seems totally nuts. Which is, I mean, in a good way. Like that would be really exciting. I really hope they do end up like going this route and like start like maybe unrestricting like these crazy powerful cards to sort of break up the dominance between like this two different, basically like the shop style decks, the bazaar style decks, or the blue style fucking cantrippy Xerox style bullshit. That would be pretty good because obviously, like I mean, you can play 4 Necro in like your storm decks, of course. But excuse me, if there's like an actual like Suicide Black sort of variant that you could play. I wonder if that would be good. Like that would be sweet. I mean, there's certainly tons of great cards, like for example stuff like Contagion, Unmask. These cards are very powerful and let you like do things for free, which lets you draw more cards. I mean, you have Spinning Darkness even if you wanted to cast that. I mean that's pretty sweet. Um, I mean, you have tons of good creatures now. I mean, well, actually, I don't know. I mean, I'm like, I don't know if like Hypnotic Spectre and Phyrexian Negator and Antuco Shade are really up to par for the most part, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's interesting. That would be sweet if they did unban Necro or unrestrict Necro, I should say. That'd be crazy. Um, that's just nuts. That's freaking sweet. And then of course, for Legacy, nothing, because outside of like I don't know a handful of cards that are on the banned list but shouldn't be there, like Legacy's pretty much always healthy. Um, it's got pretty much all of the almost all of the awesome cards. Only the most egregious mistakes, obviously Power 9, Shop, Bazaar, stuff like that, Strip Mine, Ancestral, that kind of crap. All that stuff isn't allowed. But that's only a handful of stuff. And then you have pretty much every other card in the game, and it's for the most part a fairly self-regulating format. Haven't really had any problems. I mean, even when like you had Death Ride or whatever, Death Ride enabled a ton of different decks, or even Top. Like these weren't like unfun formats. I mean, sure these decks were really powerful, but there wasn't it wasn't like Ravager, fucking Affinity, Skull Clamp Standard or whatever. Uh, so in fact, I think, I mean, you go back to the survival decks; those are really powerful, but obviously that wasn't too bad. I think the only time that the Legacy was really, really broken was during Flash. And that's probably one of the best decks that's ever been played, like ever constructed. You know, that thing was pretty nuts. So, yeah. Legacy pretty good, pretty healthy. And I'm okay with that. Especially things are still like we don't even know what the hell's going on. There's still like all these good sets, you know, War of the Spark, Modern Horizons, even stuff in the core set, and like Elvish Reclaimer, the crop rotation guy, really good in the Depths decks, Dark Depths decks. Say that 3 times fast. So yeah, pretty happy. I think this is great. Great announcement, lots of great stuff. Great stuff for every format. Everyone should be really happy. I mean, I guess banning Faithless Loon does kill like the Phoenix deck probably, and Dredge can switch to something else for a discard outlet or whatever. But yeah, everything looks good. Um, can't really complain. So shit. But that's it. Thanks for stopping by, guys. Just starting up my day, starting up my morning, drinking my coffee. And everything's good. It's good. So thanks for stopping by, guys. Have a great day. I hope you come back again and have a great day again.